Hi, I'm Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make the Bats Brew cocktail, which is the themed cocktail on this episode of the Scary Spirits podcast when we discuss the vampire bat. But please remember, I am not a bartender. I only play one on the internet. Alright, first thing we're going to need, a glass with ice. In that glass, we're going to add 3 ounces of white rum. One and a half. 3. Next, we're going to add 5 ounces of ginger ale. Then we're going to add 1 ounce of blue curacao. Then we're going to add 1 ounce cranberry juice. I'm using cranberry juice cocktail. Whatever, same diff. And then we're going to add a splash of grenadine. We're going to stir well. And lastly, we're going to garnish it with some frozen blueberries and or blackberries. I have some frozen blueberries here on a toothpick. Lovely. Delicious. Pretty rummy, I have to say. So, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So if you're ready, let's go. Hi, I'm Greg,
And I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Karen, why don't you tell everyone what the Scary Spirits podcast is?
The Scary Spirits podcast joins the wildly different yet highly compatible worlds of scary movies and alcoholic spirits. What could possibly go wrong?
Yes, what could possibly go wrong?
Greg, what movie did you pick this week?
This week, the movie I have selected is The Vampire Bat from 1933, a black and white unrated film starring Melvin Douglas, Fay Wray, and Lionel Atwell. Would you like to know why I picked this movie, Karen?
I would actually love to know why you picked this movie.
I must admit, this was a movie picked solely on the drink.
Really? Because I thought
Yes.
you were going to say solely on Fay Wray.
Well, partly because of Fay Wray, but I know there are lots of movies that involve bats, so I started looking up bat-themed cocktails, and I found one. So then I thought, oh, that's a pretty good cocktail using a lot of the ingredients I already have in my stocked bar. What movie could I pick to go with this? And I was choosing between The Bat, which is with a Vincent Price film, I think. And then I found The Vampire Bat, and then I saw Fay Wray, and I was like, oh, we have a winner.
Fay Wray. I dated a guy in college that every time he'd always say, Fay Wray. And I didn't get it, but now I kind of get it. But I don't get why I'm no Fay Wray. Let's just say that. So
You think that's her real name?
I don't know. Should we find out?
Yeah. Hang on. Okay, so Fay Ray was born on a ranch near Cardston in the province of Alberta, Canada, to parents who were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She was one of 6 children, and apparently her name is Fay Ray.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Who knew? Probably lots of people, but not me.
Or me.
Yeah, you would think that would be a stage name.
Sounds
Fay
like
Ray.
one.
Fay Ray.
No, you have to say it with love.
Fay Ray.
Yes. Maybe it's lust.
I don't know.
Well, I can just say, Gary, I know you're listening. I get it. Fay Ray's the shit. I get it now. I didn't get it then. I get it now.
Karen, would you like to read a brief description of the film?
I got you covered. The Vampire Bat. When a small Bavarian village is beset with a string of mysterious deaths, the local Burgermeister demands answers into the attacks. While the police detective refuses to believe the nonsense about vampires returning to the village, the local doctor treating the victims begins to suspect the truth behind the crimes. With more people falling victim to the attacks, the locals rally to try to hunt down the menace.
Yes, they do. And today's beverage, today's themed cocktail, is the Bats Brew. Would you like to know how to make the Bats Brew? Or would you like to know the ingredients first?
I think
or should we tell our listeners the ingredients in case they want to drink along?
Let's.
Okay. So the Bats Brew, you're going to need 3 ounces of white rum, 5 ounces of ginger ale, 1 ounce of blue curacao, 1 ounce cranberry juice, cocktail, right?
Mine's just straight up.
No, I use the cocktail, I think.
Rookie.
Yep, cocktail. And a splash, just a splash of grenadine. So go out and buy a big bottle of grenadine so that you can use just a splash.
Exactly.
So basically you combine all the ingredients in a glass filled with ice, stir well, and then garnish with frozen blueberries or blackberries through a toothpick or some other sort device and serve.
It turns a lovely deep purple color.
I suppose. Dark blue, purple. Yep. Maybe my grenadine splash wasn't as much as yours, or the cranberry. Maybe it's because I used the cocktail, cranberry juice cocktail.
All right, give them time to gather the ingredients to play along.
All right, so if you like to drink with us, go ahead and get your ingredients. We'll wait. And we're back.
And we should probably mention, if you want to get any of the recipes, if we were too quick for you, you can visit the recipe den on the website. They're all in there.
Yes, they are. So before we get started, Karen, I do have a correction from last week's episode. I must.
Wait, is it on you or me?
It's on me.
Yes.
So you mentioned the cool ghoul last week, and I said that there was a quote unquote fake cool ghoul in Cleveland.
You disparaged him, yes.
I did, and I don't want to upset any of our Cleveland listeners, so I have to correct myself. The cool ghoul in Cleveland did get permission from the original cool ghoul in Cincinnati, Dick Von Hone. He did have permission. He was kind of like a franchise cool ghoul.
He was Cool Ghoul 2.0.
Yeah, with the full support of the original cool ghoul created by Dick Von Hone.
The OG.
The late, great Dick Von Hone.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready to get into this movie?
Can't wait.
Anything else? Anything else we need to cover? Any other housekeeping shit?
Well, I don't think so.
Okay. So the Vampire Bat from 1933. The movie opens. We see bats flying around a clock tower.
Lots and lots of bats.
Lots of bats. It appeared to me that the time on the clock tower was 7:30 p.m. I assume it was p.m. because it was dark. Did you make note of what time it was, Karen?
I did not.
And we see a night watchman. I'm calling him a night watchman. He's walking the streets with his lantern,
Limping along. But I did
limping
note
along.
the quality of this movie is like visually experiencing a scratched vinyl record. It's so bad.
Well, yeah, it's bad. Well, part
I
of that is
mean,
because it's in the public domain, so anyone can just grab a copy of it, make a copy of it, and sell it. So
I didn't know if
the
it was
quality is not
intentional.
that great
No, it's bad.
on
And I
most
couldn't.
copies. But UCLA, I did read in research, has like restored it and added it to their archives and
So
things
all
like
the
that.
dust and hair and everything else.
Yes, yes. The screen does shake quite a bit as well.
Yes. Yes. So I didn't know if it was intentional or not. That's what it reminded me of, watching what you would be listening to an old.
It's a good analogy,
Yeah, it
actually,
was.
for those of you who know. Well, vinyl's coming back. Everyone knows what vinyl is now, right?
Yeah, it's
But
my first.
do they know what old vinyl records are?
They will once they keep their records, for if they don't take good care of them.
Or if they buy vintage one, they may experience the
Disappointment.
of that.
Again, I just showed how old I was. Oh well.
So we later learn that the night watchman, his name is Cregan, right? Cregan?
Do that, but
Yes. So he looks up at the clock tower and he sees someone on the clock tower. Did you see that?
snaking across the rooftops.
So you did
Yes.
notice it? Okay. Well,
I
it took me
did.
I didn't see it until the second time I watched it.
Yeah,
And
they
then
didn't make it obvious. In these
No, and
films, usually it's really, really
like you
obvious.
said, you're watching a record
Yes.
and it's dark.
And shaky.
We hear a wolf howl, several wolf howls. Then we hear a woman scream. Then we cut to the office of the Burgermeister.
Yes. And tell me, again, this is going to show how old I am. And I am way older than Greg.
Way older. Oh my God, so much older.
Way older.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did.
Well, this may show. Did the Burgermeister trigger anything in your memory?
Well, of course.
Okay, what was it?
You know what it is.
You have to tell me.
Burgermeister Meisterburger.
Yes.
The Rankin and Bass, back when Christmas shows were cool.
Yeah, it's Santa Claus is coming to town.
Stop motion Christmas programs, Rankin and Bass. The best.
Burgermeister Meisterburger that wouldn't let the kids have toys.
That's right. That's right.
So, okay, I just laughed when I saw it.
You know what a Burgermeister is?
Why don't you tell me?
I looked it up just because I'm like, I never really knew exactly what a Burgermeister.
Is it like the mayor?
It literally translates to master of the town.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. So it is the chief magistrate of a city or town.
So kind of like a mayor.
Yep, kind of like a mayor. And of course, it comes from Germanic speaking countries like Bavaria, right? Which is where this takes place. Because there's a whole bunch of Germans in it, right?
I thought it was Germany, but
Bavaria.
Nobody is German.
Bavarian. Yep. Wait, I'm going to get there. In the office of the Burgermeister, I made a note that none of the men in the office have a Bavarian accent. They're all English accents. All of them have English accents. And they're talking about all the recent deaths, which involve all the victims having 2 holes in the jugular, as they pronounce it.
I did appreciate that.
And he just said that there is also a blood clot 8 inches below the incision, which is the mark of the feast.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Did you know devil's signature, he says.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. That's what he said.
I know, but I've never heard anything about that before.
I haven't either. But I did make a note that one of them says Gott in Himmel, which is German for God in heaven. So they do speak German here and there. And I also made a note that they use Herr and Frau a lot as opposed to Mr. and Mrs. So they do throw in a little bit of Germanic language here and there.
Well, I have a quote, and I don't know who said it, but it made me laugh because somebody said, "But the bats, man, the bats." It's just like the writing is stellar.
Yeah.
And then there's a heavyset guy in there that talks extensively about how nothing can get into his room.
Yep. That's the guy who says Gotten Himmel.
And I thought for sure, which color shirt Star Trek gets it? The red one?
Red shirted ensign.
Okay. I thought for sure that was a setup for that. But he makes it, people. Don't worry.
So they're all in there talking about these deaths. The man we learn is Carl, right? Who is the inspector, the detective, the police detective.
He's the skeptic.
That's right. He's in there smoking a Marlboro and he keeps flicking his ashes the whole time on the floor. So apparently, he has no respect for the Burgermeister's office at all. Or maybe that's just what they did. I don't know. Then we hear another wolf howl while the men are talking. Lots of wolf howls.
Authentic.
Yep. And I did make a note that Carl is a skeptic. He's not buying it.
Exactly.
All right. Next scene. We cut to a laboratory.
Yes, we do.
And we see Fay Ray.
Okay, hold on. Because when I saw that, here's what I thought. Okay. Because I thought, they put a female scientist in here.
Oh.
That's what I thought because they walked in, they walked down the stairs, and who's standing there with all the bubbling liquids but Fay Ray. And I thought, oh my God, they put a female scientist in here because this is Madame Curie's time. Madame Curie died in like 1934. So, and she was, the scientist of all scientists. So I thought, oh my gosh, they did it. They put a female scientist in here, only to be disappointed later when I find out who she really. But I was very excited because I thought, oh my God, 1933. Even though she's in a dress and heels as a scientist, I thought, yes.
Yeah, that didn't even register with me. I guess I'm used to seeing women as scientists.
Or you were just blinded by Fay Ray.
I don't think so. She didn't really do it for me.
Well, those are fighting words with Gary. That's all I'm going to say. But what do they do when he comes into the laboratory?
Carl comes into the laboratory, gives old Fay Ray, whose character's name is Ruth Burton.
We're calling her Fay.
Burton. I went through here and changed all my notes to say Ruth from Fay.
All right.
So I'm going to call her Ruth. I called her Fay Ray throughout all my notes. So Carl gives Ruth a kiss.
Not just a kiss.
A kiss like dynamite.
A cork stopper popping kiss.
Right. You explain what happens because you're a scientist.
Well, no, it just pops the cork on a flask.
A flask under like a Bunsen burner and,
your
basic laboratory stuff.
Yeah, I will say they didn't have colored liquids, which was interesting. It was all clear. So points for that.
White. Black and white.
Yeah,
you don't know.
It would have been dark if it was a color.
Could have been like a light green or a light blue or
it was clear.
Okay, so it was clear.
Don't start with me on the science. Wait, I did note they are a handsome couple. They're a good-looking couple.
They are a good-looking couple. They have very similar noses. I noticed later.
They do look a lot alike.
Their noses are identical. Like when they're facing each other, it's like this.
They can't see that, Greg. He did a visual, but I do say the man has a weird mustache, like a soul patch.
Well, it was 1933.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
It's the same as like Clark Gable had and Gone with the Wind and all those.
I guess.
So anyway, Carl is upset being the police detective that he says he can't find a single clue about these murders. He says he's blind as a bat and he feels 7 ways a fool.
Been there.
I have no idea what that means. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing.
You've never been there? 7 ways.
7 ways? That's just an odd phrase I've never heard before.
Well, maybe you've never been there. It makes sense to me.
Okay. And then he says, I like how I noticed throughout this film, when a new character enters, they say, oh, here comes Dear Auntie Gussie. They introduce each character as they come in, it seems like.
And what's she doing?
What the hell is she doing? I don't know. She comes running downstairs, right into the laboratory, and probably complaining of some.
Isn't she bringing coffee? Or is that someone else?
I
Is
don't
that
know. Here comes dear Aunt Gussie, and she's always complaining about her ailments. She's a hypochondriac.
She is. I think she's the comic relief in this.
She is. She's the comic relief.
Yeah. It's like when you read WebMD. She like reads a book and diagnoses herself.
That's right.
You can read a book. You're like, yeah, I have headaches sometimes. Oh, yeah, I am really tired. And then it's a disease in Africa that you only get if you swam in a certain river or something. I don't know.
Right. Yep. That's her exactly. Oh, I know. She comes down. She comes down looking for Dr. Odo. I'm calling him Dr. Odo because that's his first name.
Okay.
They always refer to him as his surname, but I ain't got time for that. So it's Dr. Odo because he has a long German surname, but of course he doesn't speak with a German accent. Everyone speaks with an English accent. She's looking for Dr. Odo because of whatever her most recent ailment is. And they tell her that he has gone to visit who? Martha, the old apple woman.
All right. But before we leave this scene.
Once again, we have introduced another character. That's what they.
Martha, the apple woman.
The old
apple woman. Old. What bothered me about this scene is they did bring coffee down to the lab and they all drank right in front of all the bubbling chemicals that just popped from that volcanic kiss.
Yeah.
That's a little dangerous. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, yeah, we don't know what was in that beaker. That vapor could be who knows what. And now it's airborne and who knows, right?
They didn't seem to care.
They didn't.
All right, off to old
Ruth is a scientist after all. She would know.
No, Ruth is not the scientist. Ruth is the doctor's assistant.
Okay. We cut to Dr. Otto visiting a sick patient who is Martha, the old apple woman. He tastes the medicine prescribed by a previous doctor. I made her know this, and tells the housekeeper or woman there to just keep on giving it to her, and it'll be fine after he tastes it.
Because I said he didn't just taste it; he drank it. He tipped the bottle up and drank it.
Yes, he did.
That's you as a doctor. Let me taste this. It's like like when you tell your kid, let me taste a cookie and see if it's good enough for you. You're like,
let me go through your Halloween candy. Be sure.
Yeah, it's safe. Oh, this one looks bad. That's you.
I'll take it.
Let me taste this medicine for you and make sure it's going to really knock you on your ass.
Right. I think that's what he wants, is to knock her on her ass.
You're a giver like that.
Yeah, but that's what Dr. Otto wants, is to knock her on her ass. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Then we see Herman enter.
Did they say hello, Herman, when he came in? I didn't notice that.
No, he just came in, and the way Herman does. He comes in with a handful of flowers and places it on Martha's chest like she's already dead or something.
Yep. He's creepy.
He is creepy. Well, he's special.
He's special, but they make him creepy. He's got a creepy smile and
he overacts.
He does.
And his facial expressions, again, we're going back to, this was right after silent film. So I'm thinking, even if these actors weren't in silent films, that's what they grew up on, right?
Right. He's definitely of that caliber. Yes.
Right. They start talking about bats. We find out Martha was attacked by a bat, by an actual bat, she says. And that's why she's sick and she is now scared of bats. But Herman says, oh no, bats aren't bad at all. They're nice and soft like cats. Yes. They know Herman. And that's what Herman says. It's not just my bad English. That's what Herman says.
And the doctor says it's hot in the room, so keep the windows open.
Right.
Although, doesn't Herman takes the rosary, or the crucifix as they call it, over to Martha, right?
Right. Martha asks for her cross. Herman says, Herman get, and he walks over and grabs it. Well, later they call it a crucifix, but I think he says a cross in this scene.
But it's a rosary.
It is a rosary.
Yeah. This is your first hint. If Herman's a vampire and all lore holds true, he wouldn't have been able to pick it up.
Oh my God, I never even caught that. And there's also a actual crucifix hanging
on
the wall right there.
Yeah. But it should have burned him or something.
Correct.
Right? Yep. So we know he's out of the running.
Yeah, if you know your vampire lore
I
and you
do.
believe it. Maybe they didn't know it in 1933 when this began.
Oh, give me my win.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
But this is after the Bela Lugosi vampire movie, after Dracula. So they should know that lore.
Yeah, they should. And actually, it's after Frankenstein.
Exactly. This movie borrows from both of those movies pretty extensively.
Elaborate on that.
I will when we get there.
Okay. Because in my research, I found things. So,
Oh, I just noticed things. So
well, that's the
you
way
might.
you are. I have to research stuff. You just notice them. Just like the cross. I didn't even notice that. Herman couldn't have touched it if he was a vampire. It'd have burned his hand, right?
It should have. Well, like you said, there's a crucifix on the wall, and no one in that room cowered
Right.
from it. So
Yep.
she puts on the rosary around her neck.
So then we cut outside. The doctor's outside, and he's talking to Cregan, the night watchman. Cregan tells Dr. Odo of what he saw the previous night when he saw the figure up on the bell tower, only he called it a giant bat.
Okay.
And he asked the doctor, maybe I should tell the Burgermeister about what I saw and tell him about all these bad bats, these vampire bats. And Dr. Odo says, yes, I think that's exactly what you should do. You should whip the townspeople into a frenzy so they're all afraid of these vampire bats, right?
Excellent advice from the doctor.
That's right. Then Herman comes out and he climbs up a light pole outside Martha's room and house, and he grabs a bat off the light pole and puts it in his jacket as he strokes it. The townspeople say that he is in league with the devil.
Yeah, they throw Herman under the bus.
And they mention the devil a lot in this too, I noticed.
Herman's the scapegoat.
Yes. Then we cut to Martha's room again, and she tells her maid or housekeeper that she wants the windows closed because she is afraid of the vampire bat.
Which makes sense.
Right.
I don't think I'd keep my window open in that situation, no matter how damn hot it was.
That's right. And the maid tells her that, oh, the doctor said that to keep it open, but I would have it closed. So she went and closed it. Then we cut back to the doctor's house. Carl is struggling to find a solution to the murders. And I made a note, but he doesn't seem to be doing any real investigating. He's just hanging out with Faye or Ruth.
Well, I couldn't figure out. It took me a while to figure out what the living situation was here.
Oh, I have a note about that later.
Okay. We'll do it then. But I was very confused. Is this a hotel? Is this what are we doing here? How does everybody live in this? But go on.
I don't know.
I digress. Go on.
And I made a note, I don't trust the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So right here is where I'm like,
Doctor
right.
is evasive. So, and I put sus. That's what my son says.
I'm still on my first page of notes. I have the doctor is suspicious.
Suspect.
The clock strikes 12. I make a note that it was a nice pan down from the clock tower. I did like that, how it panned down. And we cut to Martha's room and her window is open and she is attacked.
That's better than me. I just wrote Martha bites it. So.
Or Martha was bit. One of the two.
Well,
whichever.
We'll see.
And we cut to a scene with the Burgermeister and men talking about Herman.
Poor Herman.
Is this like a city council? I think it says like a city council. The Burgermeister and his council.
Just a bunch of butt heads from town. That's what
bunch of old white men.
Yes. They ruin everything.
They start talking about Herman, and one of them mentions he never works, never bathes, but he always seems to look so well fed.
Yes, well fed.
How has that happened? They don't understand. He must be in Live with Lucifer. That's what I would say. Not the devil, but whatever. The doctors are now looking at Martha's body, right? Kind of doing a autopsy.
I have the town is gathered and upset. Okay, Herman approaches and a lady screams. He startles a woman. And then the crowd parts like the Red Sea as Herman walks up the stairs to go to see where the doctors are.
But before that, they have her in a room and one doctor asked another the name, the age, didn't know, cause of death. And he says, same as all the others, two puncture marks on the jugular. They said jugular again.
Yeah, the wounds are the same in every case.
Right.
Teeth into the jugular. So this makes...
And Kurgan tells the other people that he saw Herman go into Martha's house. late in the night. And they tell him that if they were him, I would lock myself in my room and pray to God to protect me from the devil. I mentioned the devil again. So they're basically telling Cregan, hey, you saw too much. Herman's coming after you next, is what they convince Cregan, or the killer.
Right. They're discussing it.
Right. Then I said Dr. or Herman comes and all the townspeople are scared of him, which is just what you said. Then we have this big discussion about vampirism. And I made a note that Dr. Otto talks about a Dr. William Garrison who explored in South America and wrote about vampire bats and vampirism.
Yeah, the watchman, when they were all standing around together, he yells, I'm doomed. He will kill me next.
That's right. And he runs, he runs away.
Yeah, they're really trying hard to pin this on Herman.
Yes, they are. But Herman comes into the room where they are talking about Martha and doing their examination. And he pulls back the sheet from her head, screams, and runs away, right?
Yeah, because Martha was kind to him, gave him apples.
That's right.
That's one reason he was well fed.
Yes. Cregan wants Herman killed. He's convinced.
He flat out says it.
Kill him. Go after him and kill him. He's the killer. And he overacts quite a bit. I made a note as he storms away. Then he says, I'm going to be next.
Yeah, I'm doomed.
I'm doomed. Then I made a note, we do another diagonal crossfade. So all the cuts to scenes in this movie are the same. They're maybe from different corners, but they're all diagonal crossfades.
Fancy.
So then we see Ruth sitting by a fountain reading, and Herman is like peering at her through the garden gate.
Overacting with his eyeballs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ruth is reading a book and hides it from Carl as he walks up to her.
Why? Because she doesn't want to look smart.
I don't know. I mean, it never comes up later, but she like takes the book and puts it behind her. Like, oh, I'm not supposed to be reading this.
I'm just a silly girl. I don't read.
No, I didn't read that into it, but so, and then Carl wants to like give her a kiss and suck face with her or whatever. And she says, oh, it's too early in the morning.
That was funny.
No morning kisses. Whatever. Ruth does tell Carl to close his eyes, and she grabs an apple and tricks him into kissing an apple.
So funny.
Lots of apples in this.
Yeah. I made a note here. No afternoon delight for Ruth, I guess. She needs a moon, she says.
She does mention the moon. There's no moon. Yeah, he does say that she's cold as stone or something too. Carl does. So then dear Aunt Gussie comes down. I think she's having a heart ailment because she was in the house and had the doctor's stethoscope, and we did a whole scene with her and the doctor, and he gave her a bunch of bullshit, and she comes out to the garden and relays it to Ruth and Carl.
I just wrote that she's wearing some wild clothes for 1930s. She's like a hippie
Gussie?
Or something. Yeah.
Aunt Gussie?
She's wearing
lots of printed stuff.
Yeah. She's a big contrast to Ruth, who's very conservative.
Solid color. Yeah. White
she's like a 1933 hippie. She's got the flowing fabric and the prints. And
so then Herman, our poor little Herman, goes into the garden, goes back in the bushes, and starts meowing like a cat.
Yeah, he approaches with his eyes, sneaking up on Auntie, doing his best Nosferatu. He did the hands. He looks a lot like Renfield from the Dracula movies. It's like he almost took his character and matched the crazy Renfield from the Dracula movies.
Maybe he did.
It's one of the crossovers that I noticed. But he makes kitty sounds in the bushes. And what old woman can resist a cat?
I don't know.
She's a single old woman. She's got to go after the cat.
Yeah, so she goes into the bushes to get the cat, and she's feeling around for it. And while she's doing that, Herman sneaks over to grab some fruit from the picnic table. Aunt Gussie, while she's feeling around in there, ends up getting bit by a turtle.
Hilarity ensues.
Yes, and she starts, flicking her hand, trying to flick the turtle off her finger. She eventually does. Then she sees Herman, and she startles Herman, and Herman cuts his finger as he's cutting an apple with a knife. She says, oh my God, you're bleeding. And he's like, oh, it's no big deal. And he sucks the blood from his finger. He must be a vampire.
Exactly.
Right? But Auntie Gussie ends up giving Herman an apple anyway. And here's where I made the note: lots of apples in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then we cut to the library where the doctor is reading to Carl and the others about vampirism.
Using what? The Monopoly monocle.
Yes, he does have a monocle as he reads.
That just shows he's extra serious.
Yeah. So then the Burgermeister and another man come to the room of the doctor. They say there's another body been found, and it's Cregan.
Yeah, that was a setup.
Yeah, the night watchman who was
So
sure he would be next. Ends up he is. And they say that Herman is nowhere to be found.
That's 8 deaths in this
Even
one
though
town.
Herman is nowhere to be found, even though he is in their
The garden.
right now at this moment.
Exactly.
And Auntie Gussie is standing right there and hears all this. And she even talks about the poor man in the garden, which may be suffering from tetanus. That's why she came in to get some shit to treat his cut, right?
Mercurochrome. Remember that? The
No.
red stuff
Sure.
they used to put on your cuts. You don't remember that?
Yeah, I do. It's like, oh, it was like iodine or something.
That's what they called it. That's what she came in to get.
Right now, Auntie Gussie knows that Herman, if she knows who Herman is, knows Herman is in the garden right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but she doesn't say anything. So then I made a note. Well, she may not know that his name is Herman.
I don't think she knew who he was.
Okay. So the men want to find Herman and kill him and drive a stake through his heart because they're positive that he is a vampire. And then we cut to the townspeople with torches. Detective Carl tells the one guy, "Hey, I'm making you my deputy. Gather townspeople and go find Herman and bring him in. He will stand trial."
Didn't Auntie dress the wound in the garden?
No, she gathered the things to do it. And then she
did it.
So this is available on Amazon Prime for free.
Which is
correct?
Yes, that's where I watched it. And she goes out and dresses his wound, realizes it's Herman, and he says he will give her a nice soft bat in exchange for her kindness and the apples, and she faints.
Oh, so that wasn't in the version I watched. The DVD I watched didn't have that scene.
And then Herman crouches over her. You didn't see the dog?
No.
A random dog appears and barks at him and chases him away. And then when Auntie wakes up, she sees the dog and thinks it's Herman because they tell her.
That makes sense later.
Yeah.
She talks about dogs with human faces and humans with bat faces.
She runs and the dog chases her because she thinks it's human. And then it cuts to what you're talking about, the study.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because that scene wasn't in my version at all.
Okay. So where did you?
Makes a lot more sense.
So did you see the Georgianne bring Martha's rosary to the doctor?
No.
And say it was found in Emil's room?
No, I didn't see that either.
Okay. Well, she does.
Right now, before we see the townspeople?
Then I have that the townspeople are looking for Herman with the torches.
So Georgiana, right, who is the
servant,
doctor's maid, house.
Yeah. Comes to the doctor with Martha's rosary and says she found it is it Emil's room?
Emil's.
Emil.
Emil, the manservant.
Yes. And so that's how the doctor knows she knows. So that makes her the red-shirted.
Got it.
Ensign. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes. I wish I was seeing this version now. That's a much better story.
Yeah. It tells you why she's going to.
Right.
Okay. So then we
cut to the townspeople chasing poor Herman with torches and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Through a cavern with caves and whatnot, I wrote.
That's the Frankenstein reference. That's Frankenstein, 100%. Right? Okay. They're coming after him with torches and pitchforks and dogs.
I'll get to more Frankenstein later.
Okay.
At the end when we wrap up.
So they're really strongly stressing the mob mentality here. They're whipped into a frenzy.
You might say the mob rules.
Yes. So Herman, of course, in all his wisdom, runs into a cave.
Correct. The townspeople close in. They try to get Herman to go back to town with them. They keep telling him, "We won't hurt you. We won't hurt you. You're going back to town with us." And Herman says, "No, Herman's scared. He ain't buying it." So he gets cornered and he ends up jumping to his death into this pit, we'll call it right now, while yelling a blood-curdling scream, I wrote.
Yeah, this was actually kind of sad.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, poor Herman. He's special. He ain't all there.
Well, we all have those
And it gets
days.
worse. It gets worse, though.
Yeah, it does.
So a couple men stay. All the other townspeople go back. A couple men stay behind with the torches, and they're like, "He's about 50 feet down on that ledge. You know what I have to do?" One guy says he's going to lower himself down there with a rope and put a stake through Herman's heart to be sure he's dead because he's a vampire. And
Yep.
all, right?
Mhm.
And then we see Georgiana cut back to the Dr. Otto's castle, and we see Georgiana in her bed. Then we see the doctor, and he's doing some kind of like weird mind control over Emil. He's doing his Bela Lugosi eyes.
Yes, he's concentrating. They can't see that either.
I know, but you can.
Yeah.
The manservant Emil brings Georgiana down to the laboratory.
He's hypnotized.
That's right. And at one point, Dr. Otto says she's no better than the rest. And we cut to a scene where we see what might be a heart beating in an aquarium full of water.
It's something in a fish tank, question mark, question mark.
All right. I don't.
Is it coral?
It does have the texture of coral. And it doesn't really look like a heart, but it is beating like a heart. So that's why I put that.
Yeah, I thought they had cut out Georgiana's heart and put it in there, but then we see her on the table. So,
Yep. Brings her down. He puts her on the table. So then the doctor puts a device around Georgiana's neck, which kind of looks like, to me, ice tongs.
yeah, but it's
Like
probably got
you
two.
used to pick up big blocks of ice with back in the day, and begins to drain her blood into a flask.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Uh,
But I bet it's got two
and white.
fang-like impressions.
Mhm.
And then so they
I
put
did
those
notice
on.
that there are two hoses coming out of one end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the doctor's draining Georgiana's blood into a beaker.
Yeah, and he's making it look like a vampire did it
Correct.
purposely.
Yep. So now, as the viewers, we know what's going on, right?
We're clued in.
Yes. We know who the killer is at this point. Then we cut to a scene with Georgiana back in her bed, and they pan down to the floor, and the crucifix, or the rosary, proper terminology, is lying on the floor, correct?
Yes. And this is where I wrote, do they all live in the same house? This is where I started to get, what's going on here?
I wrote that earlier, but let's cover that now. Why are they all living in the doctor's house?
Well, I think there's the manservant.
Yeah, we understand Emil
two
and Georgiana and the doctor. Why are
Fay
Aunt
Ray
Gussie and Ruth living there?
I'm guessing, despite my initial excitement that there was a female scientist in this movie, she is his assistant. And since she's a single woman, I would guess she wouldn't be allowed to go and do that without some sort of guardian. And so I'm assuming her aunt is her guardian, and they live there because she's got a job as his assistant.
That would
But
make sense.
it took me a long time to figure out why all these people lived in this one building, this castle.
That would make sense. Another point for Karen.
Yay.
She's up 2-0.
I think it's more than that, but
Well,
whatever.
you could say it's 2-1 because, I had to apologize for the whole school ghoul thing earlier. So I might have lost a point there. But anyway, the bell is ringing, which I originally thought was a servant bell, like maybe the doctor was ringing for her. But then we find out it's actually the doorbell.
Well, it's a bell in Georgianne's room.
Right.
Because she's the servant. She's supposed to go answer the door.
Right. Because we cut down to the living room, study, library, whatever. Dr. Otto is having his nightly coffee, and someone is knocking on the door. And it turns out it's Carl and Ruth at the door, and Aunt Gussie. They've all been out, I guess, for a night on the town. I don't know. Seems pretty late at night.
Ruth can't go anywhere without Auntie.
They say that they had to knock because no one answered the bell. And the doctor starts talking about Georgiana and how she's not as good as she used to be, whatever, so on and so.
Yeah, she was 3 minutes late with his coffee.
Yeah, he always has his whole pot of coffee at 10 o'clock that Georgiana brings him.
Yeah, she brought it at 10:03 or something like that.
Well, he always has it at 10 o'clock, he says.
Yeah, but she's slipping.
She's slipping.
Yeah.
He's inferring that she's losing it. She's not as good as she used to be. Aunt Gussie says she's going to go up and go to bed. She passes Georgiana's room and sees her in there, walks in because she's kind of laying on the bed, kind of funky.
And she's worried about her injuring herself, sleeping
Right.
wrong, as we old people do now.
Yeah.
You can take a nap and you're down for a week. Your neck.
Auntie Gussie realizes that she's gone, she dead, and she screams and faints. So when Aunt Gussie screams, all the others come running up the stairs. Dr. Otto, Ruth, and Detective Carl. They all immediately run to Auntie in the floor. They just kind of casually look over at Georgiana, except for Dr. Otto. He kind of walks over there and feels her pulse. Detective Carl deduces that Georgiana has been dead about 45 minutes based upon the time that she brought the doctor his coffee at 10:03, right?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, he says she was a little late. It wasn't 10 o'clock. It was 10:03.
Damn
so
it,
the
Georgiana.
doctor says it's been about 45 minutes. So at this point, it's 10 till 11, right?
Yeah.
Then they see the crucifix on the floor and they discover it's Martha's crucifix on the floor. And then Carl says that Ruth saw Herman in the garden that morning. So going back to when the men came in looking for Herman while he was in the garden, and Auntie Gussie didn't say anything. Now we know that Ruth also saw him and she knew that he was in the garden and she didn't say anything either.
I don't think Ruth thinks he's the vampire.
No, but it's just another flaw in the story, right?
Women keeping something from a man.
Maybe. I don't know.
Secret book, secrets.
I know. We never did find out what the book was.
How to keep secrets from your man.
Then Emil, the manservant or butler, whatever you want to call him, comes in and Carl asks him about what he had heard. He says he went to his room and must have dozed off, but it was awoken by Auntie Gussie's screams. And I noticed that the doctor was still kind of looking at him as he was talking with those big bugged eyes of his Bela Lugosi eyes. So I was wondering if maybe he was still being controlled by the doctor as he was telling his story.
I'm sure he was.
So Carl then begins to think that it could be Herman that's the killer, because of course he doesn't know that Herman's dead. And then Carl does some investigating.
Finally.
And he tells the doctor there's an unbroken cobweb in the window. If Herman did come in, he must have come in through the door.
See, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And the doctor says, well, I was in the library the whole time. I didn't hear anything.
Carl tells Ruth to stay in her room with the doors and windows locked.
Correct, he does.
And then at the bottom of the stairs, there are some amazing lamps. I think they're Art Deco. I was distracted by the lamps when they were talking.
And then the Burgermeister arrives and tells them that Herman fell into the devil's well in a cave and that vampire's dead, he says.
But wait, he fell.
He says he fell about 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Then Carl informs the Burgermeister that there was another death after Herman fell into the well. And then they go into this whole thing about, well, maybe because he's a vampire, he could do whatever.
But they drove a stake through Herman's heart.
The Burgermeister says they drove a stake through Herman's heart to be sure he was dead, so it could not have been him. And again, the devil's well. So I made a note, there's lots of mentions of the devil here in this movie. Lots of satanic panic.
Nice.
So Carl tells the Burgermeister to fetch Herman's body and give him a proper burial because that's, at least that's what they, owe him after all they've done to him.
They're kind of like, oops.
Whoops.
Uh-oh. Well. My bad.
And then I said, and no one seems to express their condolences to the doctor about poor Georgiana. They just say, oh, yeah, we'll arrange for her to be taken to the morgue. That's it.
Now this is like,
she's just a maid.
We're up to, I wrote down, we're up to 8 murders, maybe 9. Maybe I miscalculated. 9.
You think I would be the one counting bodies.
I know,
but I'm not.
That's a lot of bodies in one town.
Maybe there were so many I didn't bother counting.
Well, we started with 6 dead when it started.
Carl asked the doctor, how much blood is in the human body? And he says approximately 6 liters.
Mm-hmm.
Karen, is that correct?
I don't know. We'd have to check that.
Hold on. According to lifescience.com, the average adult has about 4.5 to 5.5 liters of blood circulating inside their body. So that's close enough for me.
Well, yeah, if you want to, you can be technical. That's what's circulating. Other parts of your body will still have blood in.
Yeah, so 6 liters could be technically correct.
Maybe it's just a big person.
Yeah. But I did find it interesting that they're using metric when they're talking about how much blood.
Well, they're in Germany.
Yeah, but they talked about blood clot was
8 inches.
8 inches
That's true. They messed up there.
below the incision.
You're right, but
So whatever. They messed up there. Maybe they
but
didn't know it.
they are in Europe, so they should be using
Well, they're
metric.
supposed to be in Europe, even though no one has a European. Well, they're English.
English would use metric too.
Okay. Carl asked him, why would someone want 6 liters of blood? The doctor says he has no idea. You wouldn't even need that much for a transfusion. That's what Dr. Otto says. Carl tells the doctor he's going to search every inch of the house to find a clue.
Inch.
Yeah, another
He's going
inch.
to go inch by inch.
Inch by inch.
Instead of centimeter by
Finally,
centimeter.
he's going to start investigating every inch of the murder scene to find a clue. And the doctor tells Carl, oh, he needs to calm down and he just needs a good night's sleep. It'll all be better in the morning.
And what does he pull out of the drawer?
He pulls out a bottle of pills with a skull and crossbone on it.
It says
poison.
poison.
It says poison on it, and hands them to the doctor and said, here's some medicine that will help you sleep.
Notice he didn't try that medicine.
No, he did not.
He didn't sample it.
No. And Carl puts them into his suit jacket pocket. Carl's very well dressed while we're talking about his suit jacket.
He's a handsome guy.
He is. Ruth and the doctor go up to bed and leave Carl downstairs to show himself out. I guess they're family like that. I don't know. Then we cut to a scene of Carl in his house, smoking a Marlboro.
In his room. Yeah.
In his room, getting ready for bed. The clock strikes 2.
I noticed that.
I assume it's 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's dark.
And we see someone crawling around the roof.
On the roof. But Carl smokes in his room the entire time and even climbs into bed with the cigarette. Doesn't take the time to put out the cigarette before he climbs in bed. He does put it out after he's in bed, but that was quite the feat.
Yes, he does.
I've never been a smoker, so I don't know how difficult that is to do, but it seemed...
It's not at all.
It seemed dangerous to me.
While I was watching it, I did make multiple notes about it, but I have done that.
Okay.
So in my smoking life, many decades
in your
ago.
reckless youth.
Yes.
Totally off topic. So if you put out a cigarette next to the bed, can you not relight it and smoke it? Or is that just not done? Like,
generally
why?
Not done.
Okay, because he just seemed like he was smoking it, so there was no way he was going to put it out until he was done with it. Is that a
Probably
thing? That's a thing.
I would say.
Okay.
In my experience, it's a thing.
Okay, it just seemed odd to me but makes more sense. I would think you just snub it out and light it up in the morning, but
no,
that's uncool.
No, it's not as good.
Okay. It's ruined.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Okay.
It doesn't taste as good after that. So Carl pulls the poison pills out of his jacket pocket as he's smoking a Marlboro. And then I noticed that, it's Emil up there crawling around on the roof.
I did
because we see Emil's face. And then we cut back to the doctor doing his Bela Lugosi eyes again. And he's telling Emil to wait until the doctor has turned out his lights and gone to bed before he goes in. So Carl goes and opens the window.
Because of course.
Of course. Night air is good for you.
I wrote lights out, window open, still smoking.
Yeah. Opens the window, turns out his light, and crawls into bed, still smoking the Marlboro. That's what I have.
Pretty similar.
And I did also make a note. I never saw him take the pills.
I don't think he did not take
the pills. Grabbed them, but he never took them. Mm-mm. At least we don't see him take them. Then Emil crawls into the window from the outside into Detective Carl's room. And I have a star, and this is probably my favorite scene of the movie.
I wrote, he cloaks Carl.
Yeah, very, very vampire-like.
Yes, that's the stealing from Dracula. Exactly. But he cloaks him.
Yeah, I think that's the best scene in the movie. But we'll talk about
I thought it was, I think because it throws back to Dracula. I think
at this point, it's only a few years
I think
prior.
It's like 2, or something.
So then we cut to a scene. Ruth walks into the doctor's library, library, as he's doing his mind control thing with the servant.
Ruth catches him.
Yep. And I think the doctor knows she's there because his eyes
flicker,
go to that side of the room. So I think he knows. but she like tries to sneak back out. Then she walks back in.
She knocks on the door, trying to fake him out.
Okay. And as she walks in, he grabs her, and then we get the confession. This is pretty much where he confesses everything he's done. He's creating life in the laboratory from all these people who have died.
Well, he's creating a rock in a fish tank, but
A pulsating rock,
it's true.
Ruth says. Well, I'm going to tell Carl. And I'm like, okay, that's a good thing to say at this point.
Yeah,
And-
she's not really smart about that. She should say, "That's very interesting, doctor. Let me
Yeah.
help you."
Yeah. Tell me more. How have you created life?
I wrote Fay Ray finally has something to do. But then, alas,
The
Faye's
doctor tells her that she and Carl will soon be drained of their blood pretty much in a part of the experiment.
she's tied up.
Yep. He takes her to the laboratory, ties her up to a chair, and gags her.
She looks lovely, though.
She's all right. Like I said, not my.
Gary's
she's
can come
all
to
right.
your door, I'm telling you.
That's fine. I don't know. I mean, she's okay. Yeah, but
She's a delight.
Different.
She's a delight.
We all have our. It's not my type. I think.
She's very delicate.
I was
but
hoping she would be. That's why I picked the movie. Right.
She's a delicate, feminine beauty, I guess.
She's a classic.
She's a
beauty.
classic beauty. Yeah.
Yeah. Then someone comes in carrying a body, and we assume it's Emil with Carl. And I made a note. The guy who plays Dr. Otto is a pretty good actor. Reminds me a lot of Lugosi. Because I guess he's been making these Bela Lugosi eyes the whole time. And
But he walks in carrying a body. A dead weight body is going to be very difficult to carry.
At one point, the doctor tells Emil, "You are very strong."
Oh, okay. I must have missed that.
He does. Like this last time when he's going to get Carl, he tells Emil, "You
But
are
even
very
some
strong."
Martha and Georgianne, they weren't small women.
No.
So
Yeah,
I'm just saying, dead weight is dead weight, man.
Right. I know.
Literally
you.
dead weight.
I agree. And then I said, "Oh," the doctor pulls away the sheet, and it's not Carl,
Carl did the switcheroo.
but the servant, Emil. So Carl pulls his gun and tells the doctor, "I did not take your sleeping pills. You have been foiled."
Okay, I have that. Carl pulls out a gun. Doc and Carl fight.
Yes.
Wait, Faye looks helpless.
Carl turns away to untie Faye or Ruth. And there's lots of more telephone cables. I made a note. Telephone cables in the laboratory. That must have been the thing. Then the doctor grabs him and they struggle. While they're struggling, Emil, the manservant, pulls a gun and points it at the doctor.
Emil is about to get his revenge.
I don't know. We'll see. So Ruth and Carl run out of the laboratory. But before they do, right, we see Emil with a gun pointed at the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor starts doing that eye thing again while Emil is standing there. Then we hear gunshots from outside.
2 gunshots.
2 gunshots. So then Carl runs in. The doctor is laid out on a table. And then it's hard to see because I didn't even notice him the first time. But if you look in the background, there's Emil.
Yeah, I had to look for
floor
him. Yeah.
with his hand out because you only see like shoulders up, right? He's back there lying and his hand is out and the gun is laying on the floor. So what has happened is Emil has shot the doctor and then killed himself.
Murder, suicide.
So do you think the doctor told him to do that?
Ooh, I don't know. Well, he was going to do it before the wonky eyes. Maybe he did.
No, it's one of the questions I have afterwards. And I'm like, okay.
But did you notice something special about that scene? They're both dead, shot in white clothing.
No wounds.
No blood.
Yeah, nothing.
No blood on the white doctor's
Emil
coat.
is wearing a dark shirt, a dark
He
suit.
is. Yes.
The doctor is wearing a white lab coat, but there is no wound, no bullet holes, no blood, no anything. I did make a note of that.
And we should say, just to give a visual to who's listening to us, literally, the doctor was draining 6 liters of blood to feed a rock in a small fish tank that pulsated. It looked like a piece of coral. What would you say it was the size of? I don't know, less than a loaf of bread, that's for
Pint
sure.
glass.
A pint glass. Good. Yes.
Something I just happen to have handy in my hand.
A pint glass. And it's just ridiculous. And he's just dropping the blood in the water.
It is pulsating. I mean, it's alive, like a heartbeat. It almost beats like a heart. I thought it was a heart.
I did too at first. I think he was just trying to grow something from scratch.
Yeah, I do too. After he confessed to everything and said that's pretty much what he's doing.
But that's a good point. I don't know if he told Emil to do it.
After it was over, I was like, wait a minute. So he was like looking at Emil, giving him those Bela Lugosi eyes while Emil was pointing the gun at him. And he was kind of like inching closer and closer to him a little bit too. So I'm wondering if the doctor said,
his
told him,
telepathy works
kill
over
me
miles.
and then kill yourself.
Maybe. I mean, it works over miles.
Correct. Yeah, across town.
I'm sure it was pretty damn strong in that little room. But then, so they're both dead and the auntie comes down.
Yeah. So then auntie comes running down saying she needs to see the doctor about her hydromagnesium sulfate affecting her worse than usual or some shit like that, right?
WebMD stuff.
And then she just says, all right. And then she runs back upstairs. And then Detective Carl says, why, that's Epsom salt. The end. Right. And that's the end of the film.
Yeah, we don't get any justice for Herman.
No justice for Herman. We don't know if Dr. Otto told Emil to kill him and then kill himself. A few questions. But back to the Frankenstein, Frankenstein tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
So this film, 1933, right? It was made, Fay Wray and Lionel Atwell, who played the doctor, had just been in a successful film called Dr. X the previous year. They'd already finished wrapping another film that was to come out right after this one. So this Majestic Pictures, who made this film, signed them all to do this quickie film to like catch on to like the popularity.
The
right?
horror popularity.
Yeah. Majestic leased the German Village backlot sets from the 1931 film Frankenstein. So all those city scenes and all those sets with the clock tower and all that stuff are the sets from Frankenstein.
See, I didn't notice that. I just noticed.
I didn't either, but I found it in the research.
The mob mentality was very Frankenstein. The cloak over the body was very Dracula. So was the telepathy. In Dracula, he commands people with his mind, and you could just see the similarities. Like they took what they thought was the best, and Herman was a poor man's Renfield, and it was like you and I sat down with some beer and pizza and said, let's write a horror movie and grab the best things from each of those two movies that we liked.
Yeah. And they even rented the interior sets so all those castle scenes with the nice sconces or whatever you were talking about.
The lamps.
Lamps were from the 1932 film, The Old Dark House, which I don't know anything about, but that's what those sets are from. So that's why it kind of looks good. The sets are good in this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It doesn't look like it was filmed in a basement.
Right.
Yeah.
The sets are pretty good. So that's why. So anything you were pleasantly surprised by in this film, Karen?
Well, at first I was pleasantly surprised there was a female scientist.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was quickly disappointed when she wasn't one. I was pleasantly surprised too by, even though you suspected that it was the doctor and you knew it wasn't Herman, I couldn't quite put my finger on how he was doing it until they showed me with his telepathy, which is a big jump, but it had enough mystery to it that I didn't know in the first 10 minutes who it was. It turned out not to be a vampire.
Right.
And you expect in these old horror movies that it is going to be a vampire.
Yeah, maybe.
It's
just a mad scientist. It's either a vampire or a mad scientist.
Right. We peaked too early with our mad scientist drink last time. We could have used it. We could have used it again.
From the title, you don't know it's a mad scientist.
No, you assume it's a vampire. So it was a little bit intriguing that way. I was disappointed, I will say, in Fay Wray's part. You could have made this film without her. She really didn't do anything.
Well,
except bring what? What did she? What?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe bring bring the inspector to the castle, but the inspector could have come to the castle anyway.
Right. Yeah, you're right. She doesn't really bring into the film only name recognition for the box office.
I mean, she's beautiful. She's a good actress. I wasn't annoyed. She wasn't overacting.
Sorry, Gary.
She wasn't overacting or anything.
No, she's good.
But she didn't do anything.
The three main characters were all
helpless.
Very good actors.
They didn't have a role for her.
Right.
There was nothing.
Even Aunt Gussie is comic relief. But
right. Her role was to just be pretty.
Yeah, she was just there to be Fay Wray.
Yeah. which she
guess.
did very well.
Yeah, she did.
But I wish they would have given her something to do. What do you got? What
I
were you?
well, I really liked, like I said, the scene where Emil crawled into Detective Carl's window. That was really good.
He's either very agile or that telepathy makes him so.
Oh, no,
'Cause
just
he's
the whole scene, how first you see his arm come into the window, and he kind of comes in, sneaks in. Of course, he has this cape on, and he pulls it over him as he covers Carl, and it's very vampire-like, and it was spooky, and it was a good scene. That was my favorite scene in the whole film, I think.
disappointments.
Disappointments. I guess Herman, the whole Herman thing, maybe.
Yeah, they did need to throw suspicion on someone, but he's just Renfield. I couldn't get it
And
out of my head.
they could have at least had bad German accents, even if they're,
I mean, when you hang
So
the
this was-
sign that it's the
here-
Burgermeister, you got to know that it's Germany. You
and
could have
all their
just
last
put
names are very German.
right. They didn't even try.
No. So we have Kleinschloss. That's the city. You did say that once. Karl Breitschneider, scientist Dr. Otto von Niemann, Martha Mueller, Hermann Glebe. Even Herman is a German last name. So they could have at least faked a German accent, I would think. So, Karen, if we started a rating system based upon how many cocktails it would take us to get through this movie, how many cocktails would you rate this film?
What's my range?
Oh, 1 to 5 or 0 to 5. If you could get through this
Or
movie
half.
without.
If you think you get through it, so it's the less cocktails, the better the movie.
Correct.
See, I kind of like this one. I think I liked it more than you. I would go with
Probably
3 or 4 2 or 3 cocktails because it wasn't that bad to me. Maybe I was under Fay Ray's spell. I don't know.
maybe you were. That could be.
I would say
I would give it 4 at least. 4. It'd take me 4 cocktails to
really.
get through this movie.
Come on, 3. There was mystery. There was.
Not a lot.
It wasn't as bad as
On my first page
See-
of notes, first page of my 4
I did
pages
too.
of notes, I put down, it's the doctor.
Okay, but it's not a fake ape
And then
arm coming
once you know it's the
from that
doctor,
wall.
that just pisses you off more about poor Herman.
It's true. I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that. Okay, 4. Now that you pointed out, because I don't like what they did to Herman.
So we're giving this 4 cocktails.
Yes.
This movie was so bad, it took us 4 cocktails to get through it. Agreed?
Agreed.
Awesome. So what do you think about the drink?
The drink was a little rummy. I had to add a
was.
little. I had to add a little bit more of pure. I'm just going to notice my pure 100% cranberry juice.
Yeah, I would say if I was to make this again for someone, instead of putting 3 ounces of white rum, I would put maybe 1 or 2, maybe 1.5.
1.5.
A shot or
Yeah,
little
I'd
more than
say
a
a shot. It was good.
It was better once I drank a little bit and added more ginger ale. So it was, my first sips were very rummy.
It was strong.
Was.
If that's your thing, you're going to love it.
Yeah. Hey, if you like rum, put 4 in. Shit.
Right.
Do what you want.
And let the person next to you taste it first, like the good doctor. See if it's tasty enough for you, or taste the person's next to you. Sorry.
Anything we've learned from this episode?
About us or about we learned 6 liters of blood.
General. Yeah. I think we dropped that.
Well, we learned that I think I like Fay Ray better than you do, or more.
I wanted to like her. I went into it wanting to like her, but I mean, she's all right.
And I got a little too excited when I thought there was a
female scientist.
Yeah.
We learned that the sets were left over from Frankenstein. We learned that a Burgermeister is the master of the town, literally translated.
Our Jeopardy skills, or what's the game where you do trivia questions?
Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah, we'd be better at that. After having done this, well, I don't know. I'm pretty bad at it.
Pretty good, except for geography.
I'm terrible at geography.
Geography is my weakness. People always pick it as the final question when I'm winning.
Smart.
They know I'll blow it because I suck. So unless it's a really easy one. Unless it's a United States one.
Even then, I'm hurting.
Now I'm pretty good at United States. Anything else about this movie you want to say, talk about?
No, I thought even though we gave it 4 drinks to get through, I think the acting by the main characters was not bad. You know,
I would agree.
we've seen some bad acting, and
Yep.
this
Acting was pretty good in this.
the subject matter iffy, but the actors were pretty good.
You know, this was just, well, because this was just a money grab and they hired good actors in between films. Well, more well-known feature films cash in on their popularity.
No, I get
as
it,
actors.
but I think you could see the difference in quality of the acting is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think the material was not excellent, and some of the acting was a little overdone by some of the extraneous characters, but you could see the quality there.
I agree. All right, anything else?
No, you want to talk about what?
Yeah, what's the next movie?
It's the Screaming Skull will be the next movie, and the drink will be the Spooky Skull. Greg, tell the listeners what we need for the Spooky Skull cocktail.
Okay, I will, Karen. You need 1.5 ounces of black spiced rum, 1 ounce of amaretto almond liqueur, 5 ounces of apple juice, and black food coloring is optional. So any kind of black spiced rum, any kind of amaretto almond liqueur, because no one is sponsoring us.
Yet.
Use whatever brand you like. I myself am partial to Di Serono.
Do you hear that, Di Serono?
It's good stuff. I have to buy some more of it.
It should be tasty.
I hope so. Anything else we need to cover?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I think Gary got his shout out for Fay Ray. I think
Several times.
yeah, he's going to be happy.
Well, as long as Gary's happy, I'm happy.
He's a good guy.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, there you go. That's perfect ending. And there you have it, folks.
Well, we do need to thank once again the band Verse 13 for letting us use their music on the podcast. You will find a link to their info in the show notes. Anything else, Karen?
Just remember, always drink responsibly. Once again, we have proven that the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are solid. Be sure to show us some love and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Email us your questions and comments to scaryspiritspodcast@gmail.com. Search for us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. You can find all the recipes for our themed drinks in the recipe den on our website, scaryspirits.com. And we highly recommend our Scary Spirits merch store. Lots of cool stuff with our logo on it. You can find a link to the store on the website. And remember, you can help build our audience by leaving us a 5-star review. As always, thanks for listening.